The Florida Gators are still looking to add to their roster in the transfer portal, and I like some of the names that they're looking at.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free, wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Friday. I am Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action. You got one more week with FanDuel because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And the Florida Gators are looking into the transfer portal still for players to fill out their roster. And I will also say this. Yes, if I'm not mistaken, the math right now is that they have 2 scholarships available. To me, that doesn't matter that much because you got to get down to the number, the 85 scholarship, by fall. You got time to kick kids out, right? You got time to figure things out. So for me, I don't care too much about that. I look at it and I just say, hey, well, cream of the crop will rise to the top. Bring in players that make your team better. And whenever you have to hit the 85 scholarship limit, get rid of people. If you bring in, 2 DBs and you're like, oh, well, now this one kid's out, then he's out. Welcome to college football. Welcome to sports, right? That's where it is. Speaking of DBs, the Florida Gators have been in contact with Michael Caraway Jr., a defensive back out of Southern Miss. And 6'2", 195-pound DB. No offer yet, but they have been in communication with him. And this is an interesting one to me here, just because obviously Austin Armstrong was the co-defensive coordinator for the Florida Gators in 2023 and 2024. Now he is the defensive coordinator at Houston, but for the time being at least, Ron Roberts is still the defensive coordinator. Like I've said, we've been told that'll change. We'll see if it actually does, but that's what I was told. And Ron Roberts built this defense that Austin Armstrong runs. And that's all relevant because Austin Armstrong, for a while, was the youngest defensive coordinator in FBS at Southern Miss. And so Michael Caraway Jr. played defensive back under Austin Armstrong at Southern Miss, was a recruit there with Austin Armstrong as the defensive coordinator, and so played in a very similar defense. And even if there is a defensive coordinator change, I would not expect the scheme itself to change drastically, okay? So you bring in a guy like Michael Caraway Jr., and he's got scheme familiarity, and that's great. That should help him go kind of seamlessly in, right? Throughout his career, he has played significant snaps at both safety spots, so free safety and box safety. Outside corner, he started multiple games this year at outside corner, has started games throughout his career at box safety and free safety, and in the slot. So when we talk about versatility, Michael Caraway Jr. is the conversation at that point, right? When you talk about someone who can play multiple spots, that's the answer. That's the player that you talk about. A versatile defensive back that can contribute at multiple spots and play special teams consistently throughout his career. I've spent this whole offseason talking about trying to find someone who could play the Triquez Bridges role. And let's go all the way back to last year. Triquez Bridges, his role was not to be the starting safety. It was not to be the starting corner. It was to be a reliable utility man that can come in and contribute at any position with comfort in the defense, right? Oregon, very similar defensive system. Florida, very similar defensive system, right? They're very similar to each other. That was one of the things with Triquez Bridges was, hey, you could bring him in and he knows what his responsibilities are in this defense. He knows what's going to be asked of him. Whether he's playing safety or corner or star, I know a lot of people talked about that. No matter what the role is, he knows what the responsibilities are. And so when I look at Michael Caraway Jr., I say, okay, that's a great starting point, right? Trikweze Bridges was not coming in to be a starter. That was never the plan. Jordan Castell, Asa Turner were supposed to be the starters. All right? Obviously, Trikweze wasn't supposed to start at corner. He came in to play safety. So looking at Michael Caraway Jr., that would be the comparison I'd make. And I think Trikweze Bridges is better. Okay, I thought Trikweze Bridges was very good. But when you look at Michael Caraway Jr., that's the kind of DB he is. He's a guy that has familiarity with the defense. He's a guy that has played significant snaps and started multiple games at outside corner, at slot corner, at free safety, at box safety. And also, I need you to know how freaking rare that is. Because there's a lot of times where you talk about, oh, this guy could play any position, right? We've done it here, right? We say with Sharif Denson and Aaron Gates, both of them, we go, hey, they could play any position in the secondary. Like, we think they could slot in anywhere. Here's the difference. They don't. Whether or not you think they can, they don't. Michael Caraway Jr. has done it and proven he can do it. This isn't just, oh, yeah, he's got the skill set to do whatever. He's got the skill set to do it, and he's done it. And to me, that's huge. I think that versatility is invaluable, especially when you pair it with a special teams contributor. As we talk about, and we'll get more into this when we get more into the off-season. And by the off-season, I mean when there's less portal and recruiting. But when you have the scholarship limits or the roster limits changing, it's becoming more important to find players that can do multiple things. It's becoming more like the NFL where it's like, yeah, we got a guy who he doesn't play much, but he could play either linebacker spot. He could play the edge a little bit. He plays special teams. He does everything. College football is going to become more like that, where guys who can fill multiple roles really matter. And so when you have a guy who could play any spot in the secondary and has played any spot in the secondary and can contribute on special teams, that's invaluable. And I think that's what Michael Caraway Jr. brings to the table. And no offer yet, and I don't know what his offer list looks like right now, but he's someone that I think you should bring in. Honestly, I don't think he's a starter quality player. I don't want him starting, but that's not what he's being brought in to do, right? He does fit the productive player at his previous position, so he fits the good portal take metric there. He's got that for us. But he's also a versatile player that has played every spot in the secondary significantly. And that matters. Like we saw, Trikweze Bridges had to move to corner this year because of injuries piling up in the secondary. If you didn't have a versatile player like that, we would have been playing walk-ons. That's what us Florida Gators fans would have had to see. Walk-ons there. Cormani got hurt. Jason Marshall got hurt. Devin Moore got hurt. Everybody got hurt. Jakeem Jackson got hurt. Everybody was hurt. Trikweze had to move from safety to corner. If you didn't have that player that could play everywhere, who's to know what would have even happened? You probably don't end the year with this winning streak that you've got going. It probably crumbles. But right now, you have the opportunity to add a player that can be your utility man. He can do everything you need him to do. And that's huge. That's, again, invaluable. And I know that, he's not a splash addition. He's not one that I'm going to say, oh, he puts you into the national championship picture. But he makes your football team better. And that's a very important part for the Florida Gators right now as we're in what should be a championship window. We'll talk about another DB the Florida Gators have been looking at next on Locked On Gators. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. It's Week 18. You know what Week 18 means? Week 18 means you find who has contract incentives to hit, and you bet on those people. oh, this guy needs 62 yards for another $500,000 contract incentive. I'm going to bet him to get 60. That's what I do, at least. That's what week 18 is like for me. Right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. You also got Bailey Zappi versus Lamar Jackson this week. $5, not too bad there, right? Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. And the Florida Gators, we just talked about Michael Caraway Jr., who does not have an offer from the Florida Gators yet in the transfer portal. We know that they've been looking at DBs. They brought guys in for visits. They have not brought in anyone for a visit yet, but they have brought in Stephen Hall or given him a scholarship offer. So he does have an offer from Florida. Stephen Hall is a cornerback from Washington State, 6 feet tall, 199 pounds, strictly an outside corner. Okay? And I don't say that to be negative. I do say that, though, because what I've been talking about this offseason has not been Florida needs an outside corner. I like the idea of just taking the youth that you have there, the guys that you brought in that have the height, the weight, the length, the speed, and the just athletic traits overall to become great, the physical mentality and press coverage, the traits there that you can't teach, and then teaching them how to play the position. I've been a fan of that at corner. I know there's people who think you should bring in a starter quality corner. This is something that we have talked about. We know that right now Florida's trending for Onis Bounty, the Tennessee cornerback commit. But we'll talk about him another day as well. But for me, my thing is that if you're going into the portal, I don't want you to get a guy who can only play outside corner. I don't want you to get a guy who can only play safety. I don't want you to get a guy who can only play star. I want you to get a guy who can play multiple roles, because right now, for the most part, your starter's pretty quality, right? Pretty good quality there, pretty good for SEC starter quality. It's just a matter of getting guys that can fill multiple roles for injury purposes, just for scheme versatility purposes, that just help you become a better football team and win more games. That's what I want the Florida Gators to look for. And so Washington State cornerback Stephen Hall has his offer. It's also, I will say this, a little bit of an outlier, right? I feel like this is a bit of an outlier for Florida recruiting wise. 6 feet, 199 pounds. Means that he's probably 5'11 and a half. If you don't know by now, every measurement you get in college football, or almost every measurement you get in college football, is kind of a lie, a little bit. But Stephen Hall, 6 feet, 199 pounds, kind of short for how Florida has typically recruited their DBs in recent years, right? Florida has typically been, hey, well, we want you to be 6'1". We want you to be, I weight not so much, but we want you to be, 6'1", really long arms, great athlete. That's what you look for. And you don't have that. Like Stephen Hall doesn't have that size. He has played sporadically elsewhere, but throughout the overwhelming majority of his career, the 1,076 snaps he's played, 933 of them have been as an outside cornerback. So he doesn't fit any of that previous mold. But however, he does have power 5 level reps and power 5 level film out there. And I say not power 4 because Washington State was not power 4 this year. They were, who the hell knows? It was the Pac-12, the Pac-2. And so they were in that. But overall, good film, good ball skills. He's got the traits that I think Florida is looking for, except for the height. I think he's got the athleticism. I think he's got the aggressive tendencies. You can't be a Washington State corner in recent years without being aggressive. That's the thing. If you don't know, they get pretty aggressive a lot of times. And it has led to them having some bad defense at times when they don't recover properly overall. Stephen Hall has been toward the top of that list, right? Him and Shaw Smith-Wade from a year or two ago. They've been pretty good. But also, when you look at Stephen Hall, even if I've said, he's not that's nothing against his film. It's nothing against him as a player. It's literally just, I don't think that Florida has a big need for outside cornerback. They do, I guess. That's fine for them, unless they think Stephen Hall can play in the slot. Maybe there's that. But when you look at his offer list, it's extensive with Power 4 programs. And not just Power 4. You got SEC teams. You've got USC, or according to On3, Stephen Hall has offers from USC, Missouri, Purdue, Oklahoma State, Mississippi State, Virginia Tech, West Virginia, and more. I don't know what the "and more" means, but I'm assuming that those are the only Power 4 programs that have given him scholarship offers in addition to Florida. Okay? So On3 reporting, he's got all those offers. I mean, USC has... I'm not high on Lincoln Riley. I don't like Lincoln Riley. I don't think that he's very good. I don't think that they've done an awesome job at USC. But I will also say, in that same breath, that their DB coach is Doug Belk. And Doug Belk is someone that you can go back to when Billy Napier got hired, when Patrick Toney left. Every time there's an opportunity for me to say, hey, you know who you should hire as DC? Doug Belk. I've done it. So I will say that I trust Doug Belk's opinion at USC. I trust Will Harris's opinion, right? I trust a lot of the guys that have given these scholarship offers. I trust their opinions. And so for me, like I've said, it's nothing against this film. I just don't think there's a huge need there. But for Florida, you think it makes you better, and you say, hey, we don't have Triquez this year. If we have corner injuries pile up, we're going to be screwed. We don't have Jason Marshall this year. We've got all these changes. If we don't have these guys, we're going to be screwed. Then go ahead and get another corner. Make your team better. And to this point, there's no visit set up. We don't know if there's going to be a visit set up, but Stephen Hall says he has an offer from Florida and a lot of other Power 4 programs. This is not some scrub that's available. He's also one of the best corners remaining available in the transfer portal, according to On3's rankings, which, say what you will about those. Just, I don't care for transfer portal rankings very much. I don't think that they're quality rankings, so I'll say that. But you can get a corner that you think helps your team. Go get him. Go make your team better, because, again, you are in your championship window. There's another player that I want to talk about that I think helps your championship window, and we will talk about him. It's on offense when we get back with Locked On Gators. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about, or that you forgot you were paying for twice or didn't realize you were paying for twice? Happened to this guy. I will say that. Not with pride, but I will say that. Yeah. I had a few subscriptions that did not realize I was paying for. One subscription that I did not realize I was paying for twice. One's a student membership, one's not. Yeah, it's kind of sucked there, but Rocket Money made it so easy for me to track them all down. And it's like having a personal assistant for your finances, okay? The subscription tracker, one of the best features around, used it to cancel the subscription that I was paying for twice. Used it to cancel some subscriptions that I didn't realize I was still paying for, which happens more often than you think. I want to say that I'm not ashamed of that. I think it happens more often than you think. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. And we spoke about two corners for the Florida Gators. Now we are going to speak about a wide receiver. And I'm going to say this right now because I know there's going to be someone in the comments saying, you added Dallas Wilson, you added J. Michael Sturdivant. They don't need any more receivers. Maybe you don't need any, but this is college football in 2025. You gotta be greedy. Greed is good, okay? Not only do you add a player to your team to get you better, but you take them away from someone else, and that matters. And we are talking about a wide receiver named Noah Thomas, who entered the transfer portal the other day. Again, Texas A&M wide receiver. And I think the Florida Gators should go after him because let's just play the hypothetical game. You brought in J. Michael Sturdivant. You brought in Dallas Wilson. Those are your big X receiver types. You will, I guess, expect to have Khalil Jackson back and available for the 2025 season. But I'm not a huge fan of Khalil Jackson's film. I've been very honest about that. I know someone the other day mentioned move him to flex tight end. Don't do that. That's a bad idea. That's a bad idea. This isn't Madden or College Football 25. Can't just go, not a good receiver, tight end. Not how it works. It does work in College Football 25. I'll tell you that, but doesn't work in real life usually. But Noah Thomas, Texas A&M wide receiver, 6'6", 200-pound track athlete. Gimme. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Just bring him over here. In 2023, he had 29 catches for 359 yards and 5 touchdowns. In 2024, he had 39 catches for 574 yards. If you can't tell, that's a few yards per catch more in 2024 than 2023. 8 touchdowns in 2024. And just a reminder, Texas A&M was not a great passing attack, right? They got through playing gritty, fugly football. That's what they did. And they got through playing like that. They were not lighting up the scoreboard week in and week out. They had a couple games, but they weren't just rough, like just beating the crap out of everybody, airing it out, okay? They were like, hey, we're going to get into a rock fight and we're going to win. We're Kentucky if Kentucky didn't suck. That's it. Which, by the way, we're going live tomorrow after Florida hopefully beats Kentucky in basketball. That game's at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Just saying that. Back to Noah Thomas. The Florida Gators should go get him. We've said this before. The Florida Gators, I don't think they're completely done at receiver. I think they're fine if they are done at it or are done with it. But I don't know if they think they're fine completely. Because, and I keep going back to Jonte Cook, right? When Jonte Cook, who ultimately committed to Washington, but when Jonte Cook was trying to make his decision for where he wanted to go, from what I was told, and from people I've spoken to close to the situation, Jonte wanted to be a Florida Gator, okay? Despite whatever he's going to say on Twitter, wanted to be a Florida Gator. The coaching staff was not sold on him. And he didn't really have the choice to commit to Florida, and so he committed to Washington. But there's that. But the reason that Florida didn't take him was not because they felt like, oh, we're good at receiver. That wasn't it. They took J. Michael Sturdivant. They took Dallas Wilson. And they were still willing to take Jonte Cook if he didn't have the, I'll say character concerns. If he didn't have the character concerns for them. So I just want to make that one clear. That's why I keep saying, maybe Florida's not done at receiver in the portal. Maybe they're not. Because you have been looking at receivers, even with the additions of J. Michael Sturdivant and Dallas Wilson. Of course, Dallas Wilson's high school. But with the additions of both of them, you've still been looking at other receivers in the portal. And you haven't just gone, you know what? Our receiver room's damn good, which it is. We're done at receiver. They haven't done that. So for me, I look at it and I say, all right, you could add another guy. This is a damn good one to add. Noah Thomas, again, 6'6", 200 pounds, track athlete, insane size, insane catch radius, has been productive in the SEC for 2 years now, and on contested catches downfield, been pretty productive, and yard after catch ability. Go get him. Go get Noah Thomas and add him to your wide receiver room and make your wide receiver room arguably the best wide receiver room in the nation. Because that's the kind of conversation we should be having about the University of Florida right now. Wide receiver room should be one of the best in the nation. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow after the Florida Gators, hopefully, beat the Kentucky Wildcats. We're going to be going live immediately after that game. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI, and I will see you all next time.